There comes a moment in life, maybe it's gradual, maybe it hits you all at once, when you realize that your energy isn't what it used to be. Not just your physical energy, but your emotional energy too. The kind you used to spend freely, showing up to every birthday party, family visit, community gathering, and last-minute get-together. You were always on, always willing to drive that extra mile, stay that extra hour, be the one who made the effort. But now even the thought of it can leave you tired. It's not that you've stopped caring about people. You haven't grown cold or indifferent. It's simply that your reserves aren't unlimited anymore. You've started to understand that every drop of your energy matters, and you don't want to spend it on things that don't truly feed your soul. You might find yourself quietly saying no to things more often, even when you can't fully explain why. That no isn't rejection, it's preservation, it's choosing peace over pressure. And you know what? That's not only okay, it's wise. Number 2, you're tired of the drama, the noise, the nonsense. Let's be honest, some social visits aren't enjoyable. In fact, they're downright exhausting. You walk into a room and instantly feel tension. There's gossip flying around, complaints hanging in the air, or that one person who always manages to bring up something hurtful or triggering. Maybe it's family conflict that never truly goes away. Maybe it's old friends who seem to enjoy stirring the pot. Or maybe it's just the overall feeling that you're not truly seen, respected, or appreciated in those spaces. In your younger years, you might have tolerated it. Maybe you felt you had to be polite or to avoid causing a scene. But now, you've simply had enough. You no longer have the energy or the patience for people who drain you. You're not interested in reliving past arguments, walking on eggshells, or pretending to be okay in places that don't feel safe. You've lived long enough to know that your peace is precious, and you're not willing to trade it for forced conversations or tense atmospheres. Protecting your emotional well-being isn't selfish, it's survival, it's maturity. And it's one of the best gifts you can give yourself. Number 3, your home is your sanctuary now. As the years go by, your relationship with your home deepens. It's no longer just a place to sleep, cook, and do the laundry. It becomes a living, breathing comfort zone. The outside world can be loud, unpredictable, demanding. But at home, everything feels just a little softer. The light falls through the windows in a way that calms your spirit. You know where every creak in the floor is, every mug in the cupboard, every blanket that warms your body just right. This space, whether big or small, rented or owned, reflects who you are now. It holds your rhythms, your memories, your peace. It's the one place you don't have to wear a smile if you don't feel like it. You don't have to listen to small talk or try to explain why you're tired. You can move slowly. You can be still. You can light a candle, sit in silence, and feel whole. And more you find that you choose to stay in, not because you're isolating, but because you're protecting your calm. It's not about hiding away. It's about finally having a space that holds you the way you've held everyone else for so long. And you've earned that sanctuary. You've built it, one small act of self-respect at a time. Number 4, you want real, not just routine. There comes a quiet shift, not overnight but slowly, steadily, when you begin to crave something deeper in the spaces you share with others. You no longer want to fill your days with empty catch-ups, hollow conversations, or polite exchanges that skim the surface of who you really are. It's not that you're bitter or closed off. It's that your spirit is calling out for realness. You want relationships that make you feel something, that light a spark or offer safe ground, or challenge you gently but honestly. You want the kinds of conversations that go past the weather, past the social media updates, past the rehearsed lines we all lean on when we're too afraid to be fully seen. You want the kind of presence that sits with you in silence, without needing to fill the air with noise. It's not about drama or depth for the sake of intensity. It's about authenticity. You're no longer interested in keeping up appearances or going through the motions of connection just because it's what you're supposed to do. You want to be around people who aren't afraid to be raw and real, who don't shrink away from honesty, even when it's uncomfortable. You want to feel alive in your relationships, not just occupied by them. The truth is, routine doesn't fill you anymore. It's not enough for something to be familiar. It has to be true. And you're finally brave enough to wait for that. Number 5, you've outgrown people-pleasing. There was a time, and maybe for years, maybe for most of your life, when your first instinct was to keep everyone happy, even if it came at the cost of your own peace. You said yes when your heart was whispering no. You showed up, smiled, and gave your energy even when you had nothing left. You apologized for things that weren't your fault. You tiptoed around other people's moods, walked on eggshells, and did mental gymnastics to avoid confrontation. Why? Because somewhere along the line you learned that being likable was safer than being honest. That being agreeable was more valuable than being authentic. That if you could just keep the peace, then maybe, just maybe, you'd be loved without conditions. But now you've started to feel the weight of all those unspoken no's sitting heavy in your chest. You've begun to see how many times you traded your boundaries for approval, and you're tired. Not just physically tired, soul tired. Because constantly putting yourself last doesn't make you kind. It makes you disappear, and you're done disappearing. You've realized that people-pleasing isn't noble, it's exhausting, and it keeps you small. So now instead of molding yourself to fit others, you're choosing to stand in your truth even when it's uncomfortable. You're learning to say no without guilt, to ask for what you need, to protect your peace like it matters, because it does. You're not trying to be difficult. You're just not willing to betray yourself anymore in exchange for temporary validation. You've outgrown the version of you that needed to be liked by everyone. Now you'd rather be respected, even if that means being misunderstood by some. Number 6. True friendship doesn't keep score. As you grow, you begin to notice that the friendships you once clung to out of habit or history no longer feel as nourishing as they once did. You start to crave something different. Not more friends, not louder circles, but deeper, quieter, more real connections. The kind that doesn't require you to perform. The kind where your silence isn't mistaken for distance, and your absence isn't held against you like a demerit. You realize that true friendship isn't transactional. It's not about who called last, who owes who, or how often someone checks in. It's not about being available 24/7 or meeting every single expectation someone places on you. It's about presence, authentic, unforced presence. In the moments that matter, yes, but also in the way someone makes you feel seen, even when life gets busy and messy and unpredictable. True friendship doesn't keep score. It doesn't tally who initiated the last conversation or count how many favors have been returned. It doesn't make you feel like a burden when you're not at your best. In fact, it's in your quietest, lowest, most unfiltered moments that true friends show you who they really are. And you've learned to appreciate those rare people, the ones who don't need a reason to love you, support you, or stay connected. They don't guilt you when you retreat for a while. They don't resent you for needing space. They trust your heart enough to know that just because you're quiet doesn't mean you don't care. These friendships feel safe because they aren't built on pressure or perfection. They're built on mutual respect, on shared values, on emotional maturity. You've grown tired of conditional connections, the ones that shift based on your availability or usefulness. You're not interested in keeping up appearances or maintaining a dynamic just because it's familiar. You want soul-level connections now. You want the kind of friendships that feel like exhaling after holding your breath all day. Ones that don't need constant maintenance to stay alive, because they're rooted so deeply that even time and distance can't shake them. You no longer chase people to prove your loyalty. You no longer feel the need to over-explain your boundaries. Because real friends, the ones who truly see you, don't make you beg for grace, they give it freely. And that's the kind of connection your heart now honors. You're not cold. You're just finally living on your own terms. There comes a point in your life when you stop bending. Not out of defiance, not because you're angry, and certainly not because you've stopped caring, but because you finally realize that constantly contorting yourself to fit into spaces that never saw you, never honored you, never deserved you, is no longer sustainable. And so you stop, you take a breath, you pull yourself back from the noise and the constant motion. And in that stillness, you meet a version of yourself you hadn't made space for in years. The version who's tired of performing, of pleasing, of shrinking just to be accepted. The version who values truth over harmony, peace over performance, and depth over being liked. This change doesn't always look dramatic from the outside. You don't shout it from rooftops. You don't necessarily make announcements. But your energy shifts. You stop saying yes when you mean maybe. You stop entertaining conversations that drain your spirit. You stop explaining your decisions to people who never bothered to understand your heart in the first place. And because of that, some may say you've grown distant. Some might whisper that you've changed. They may even call you cold. not realizing that what they're really witnessing is your healing in motion, your clarity becoming visible, your boundaries finally taking shape after years of being ignored. It's not coldness, it's alignment. You no longer feel the need to chase connection or perform closeness for people who only loved the version of you that overextended herself. You've begun to understand that some people only value you when you are useful to them, when you are agreeable, available, and undemanding. And you're done living like that. Now you move with more intention. You honor your time as sacred. You protect your energy like it's life itself, because you've learned, sometimes painfully, that it is. Your mental peace, your emotional well-being, your nervous system. All of it matters more than their comfort. You're no longer living to be understood by everyone. You're living to be whole for yourself. What others call cold is really your warmth being preserved, no longer leaking out into spaces that never reciprocated. What they call quiet is you finally listening to your inner voice, no longer silencing it to please the crowd. What they perceive as selfish is actually you finally realizing you matter too. You are not here to be everyone's emotional dumping ground. You're not here to overextend while your own needs go unmet. You're not here to keep proving your worth through overgiving. You're here to live a life that feels honest. And if that honesty looks different than it used to, if it means fewer conversations, smaller circles, and more solitude, then so be it. You've done your time in the waiting rooms of other people's approval. You've spent years trying to decode expectations that kept changing. Now you walk your own path, slowly, surely, maybe even quietly, but always on purpose. You are no longer available for roles you never agreed to play. You are no longer shrinking to keep the peace. You are no longer sacrificing your peace to keep connections that rely on your silence. This isn't coldness. This is coming home to yourself. And that's freedom.